really go to the cinema. Last night I went to see the new Alien Romulus film at the View Cinema in Watford, which is a really good cinema. The seats are amazing. You've got a special button you press and they recline, and it's lovely. Got a little lecture theatre style table with a cup holder and everything. I sat right at the front, as I always do at the cinema, which was lovely. It was a great seat, fantastic cinema. The sound is absolutely fantastic in there. It goes right through your body. And we went to see Alien Romulus. Now, for the first 5 or 10 minutes, the opening parts of the film, the opening sequence, I literally out loud was saying wow, because it was so beautifully done. And I don't know, perhaps I haven't seen a film that involves a lot of CG, a lot of outer space stuff for a while at the cinema. I don't think I have. I think the last one I saw was Interstellar. Um, and that wasn't really about special effects as this one was. And some of the sort of dust effects in space and just the seamless camera work going from an outside to an inside shot of the spaceship was really extraordinary. The windscreen wipers on the spacecraft, a bit stupid, a bit ridiculous. They would have been ripped off. That was just a really stupid touch. If they were going to have them, they should have had, like, I don't know, that they came out of some special housing or something where they get to hide while it's taking off, at 3,000 miles an hour, because there's no way they wouldn't have been ripped right off. They wouldn't have done anything, and we wouldn't have been able to keep the rain on. The rain wouldn't have stayed on the windscreen anyway. All you have to do is design the windscreen so that the sheer force of the wind drives the rain off of it. That's all you need is a curve. Anyway, which you would have anyway to protect it from outside stress. But anyway, that was a detail that annoyed me to start with. I thought, okay, so we're going to have technical details in here. We're going to have this is going to be a bit more space opera and less science fiction, and that was absolutely true, because the very first shot of the ship changing direction was a Millennium Falcon style space opera swing. It wasn't it wasn't just it was a sweep, totally ridiculous, as if it was flying in air like an airplane. So we did establish early on that this was going to be space opera style science fiction, and it wasn't going to have the Ridley Scott rigorousness, and that's fine. That's fine, because not all the Alien films are Ridley Scott films. Alien 2 was not a Ridley Scott film. So we and we established these characters. Now, I had a problem from the start with the diction, the actors mumbling their words. I don't understand why it is so difficult now to find actors who can speak clearly. I couldn't understand a lot of what the actors were saying. We had British actors, I am British, I'm English. We had English actors, and okay, they're speaking in a modern English accent, so they're talking like that, Well, actually, that's more like a Cockney accent. How were they talking? I suppose they were talking like that, It was a bit like that. It was a bit kind of more like southeastern, more like Kentish. It was a little bit somewhere between London and Kent, like that. But there's still no excuse for not having diction and clarity in your speech. Because there's talking like, oh, I can't understand the word you're saying, and then there's talking like that where I can understand every word that you're saying. If you think of Michael Caine, right? He's a Cockney. I can understand every single word Michael Caine says, because Michael Caine, when he talks like that, and he intonates every single word, and he makes sure that I can understand every single word he says. I can't do a Michael Caine impression, but these guys were more like trying like that, and so I couldn't understand every word I was saying. And it wasn't even that it was fast. It's that it was mumbled. It's that their articulators simply didn't freaking work. Especially the lips. They've not done their articulation exercise. I don't know what they teach them in drama school these days, but the robot, great actor, absolutely fantastic performance, but his articulators were rubbish. And so there were 2 jokes in a row that he said that I didn't even understand. And I'm English, and I didn't understand them. And I thought that was very sad. So I don't know what these drama schools are teaching people, but we do me mommy mo me me for a reason. We do red lorry, yellow lorry for a reason. And I bet they don't do it anymore. Anyway, okay, so that was a big problem for me throughout the entire film, because it just grated and it got to me. The other thing that really got to me, and I know I'm going to piss people off by saying this, but I don't care, is that the only bad guy in the film was a white middle-aged man. And I'm a white middle-aged man, and I played the bad guy for 2 years in the show that I did. And I'm very glad that they paid me for 2 years to play the bad guy, the white middle-aged bad guy, and I took the money. I didn't like it that the audience cheered every night as I got killed at the end of the show. I didn't like that at all. And to be honest, I'm glad the show ended when it did, because I started to have a bellyful of it. But now I go to the cinema to get entertained with a story, and I don't understand why you have to just keep on making the white middle-aged man the bad guy, because apart from anything else, yes, it's slightly annoying. I do identify a little bit with him, but that isn't the main reason. It annoys me, because I don't mind if the white guy or the middle-aged guy or the gay guy. I'm gay. I mean, he wasn't gay in the film, but I don't care if there's some identification that I can make with the bad guy. That isn't what bothers me. What bothers me is that I saw it coming. It was so obvious you were going to choose him to be the bad guy. It was so bloody obvious. And that made it unexciting. It made it boring, quite honestly. In addition to the layers of feeding into people's political identities of white middle-aged men are bad, we won't even get into that, but I don't like the fact that it is building on the very, very cheap shot of that. It's a very cheap shot to take a shot at white middle-aged men. I mean, how safe can you get? But that pales into insignificance from the fact that I just paid $9.99 to sit in a reclining chair and see a plot unfold that I could have laid bets on at Ladbrokes and become a millionaire, because it was so frickin' obvious. I did like the fact that you brought back that actor, and we had him again. I liked that a lot. And incidentally, one of the reasons I liked it is because he had really good diction, because he was an older actor, so I could understand every word he said. That was one of the reasons I really liked that actor. Now, in terms of the plot and the plot twists, the ending was really terrible. Spoiler alert. The ending was really terrible. There was no twist. There were no surprises. It all played out exactly as you would imagine it was going to play out based on the preceding hour and a half. The last half hour was absolutely predictable. I thought that was a dreadful shame. A dreadful shame. There was also a really awful, lazy writing in this alien. She gives birth to this alien human hybrid. Now, that was a great idea. I liked that idea a lot. But in order to reveal this alien human hybrid as a fully grown beast, they had her give birth, and then they must have come up with some explanation as to the acceleration of its growth or something, because there must have been some explanation quickly rammed in at the appropriate moment. It actually flew over my head. I must have been thinking of something else when they were explaining it, but they would have shoehorned in the most blunt, crappy way this, oh, well, of course it has accelerated DNA growth acceleration, acceleration. And they would have come up with some bullshit like that, because they made her give birth to this egg, and within 5 minutes it was a fully grown 7 or 8 foot tall alien human hybrid. To me, that again was extremely lazy writing. If you want to show the alien fully grown and she's only just given birth to it, then you need to come up with some way in the plot that this has also happened previously. So perhaps they rescued someone from that ship. Or perhaps there was some history on that ship that is yet to be revealed of how someone gave birth to one of these alien human hybrids 20 years ago or something, and it's been living on the ship ever since. Or something like that. They should have come up with something a bit more plausible than that. That was ridiculous, absolutely stupid, that this alien, she gave birth to this egg. That was a wonderfully horrific scene, incidentally, the birth. I mean, that must have been really horrid for women to watch if they've given birth. That must have been even worse. But anyone that's had a big poo, I would imagine, that's a horrible scene to watch. That's really grisly. Now again, the alien acid, and all switching off the anti-gravity and all that, switching off the gravity, I loved that was one really clever, brilliant thing. I think it has been done in sci-fi films before, this switching on and off of the artificial gravity. Loved that. But I think they should have telegraphed it a bit more to the audience, spatially, which way was up and which way was down. It should have been a bit more clear in the set design, so that we know what way that character's going to fall when the artificial gravity comes back on. They should have done that a bit better, because we were totally disoriented when the artificial gravity was off, and we knew it was going to come back on, and we knew that was going to happen, and that was a really good idea of the artificial gravity coming back on, and then they go bang onto the ground. But I would like to have known exactly where they were spatially for that, because I'm not them. I'm not in their confusion. I'm the audience. I'm God. I'm watching over, and I want to see this all unfold, and I want to see exactly where they're going to fall and be horrified by it before it happens, the moment before it happens, And I think they could have made more of that as well. I mean, it could have triggered some, they might have landed on a switch or something, or landed on a console so that it now doesn't work, or landed on some important piece of equipment and broken it, or something like that. I mean, that would have been better, perhaps. I think they could have done a bit more with that, a little bit more with that, or just landed in such a way that some piece of equipment is lost, flies away, whatever. They didn't they didn't make the most of that, and they didn't unfold it with enough clarity. If you're going to have something about artificial gravity being switched on and off, you need to make it very clear to the audience which way is up and which way is down when the gravity is going to come back on. Also, I mean, there's no such thing as artificial gravity. I mean, the only way you're going to do it is the Arthur C. Clarke way. So that annoyed me slightly as well. There's no such thing as artificial gravity. It's ridiculous. So that annoyed me too, the technical detail. But again, we're in a space opera. We are in Star Wars, and you can walk around on the Millennium Falcon, can't you? I mean, just walk around on it as if you're on Earth. Now, what does that bring me to? The acid. When they switched off the artificial... Yeah, because they were worried that if they shot the aliens, the acid would drip through the hull and would melt out the hull, and they'd all be sucked out into space. Okay, fair enough. I'd be worried about that too. So they switch off the artificial gravity, and that is her brainwave, apparently. That's her amazing brainwave that solves this problem. I don't really understand how that solves this problem, because if you don't have any gravity and you're shooting these aliens and they're bleeding out acid, isn't it going to come out in every direction? Isn't it going to melt every bit of the hull? Not just that one hole, but the whole hull? Aren't we going to have holes in the whole hull? So, I didn't really understand that at all. That was just some serious stretch of the imagination. It didn't explain it. She didn't explain it. The droids didn't explain it. And he was like, oh yeah, aren't you clever human? Clever human has come up with the great answer that the droid couldn't come up with, of how to stop the acid melting the hull. Well, how? How? An object travelling through space can't stop. So the acid... And then they have to navigate these clouds of acid in 0G. to get to the other end of the room for some reason. And then we had the elevator. The elevator just reminded... even with the acid, we were already getting into superhero movie territory, and I cannot stand superhero movies. I loved Superman, by the way, which was one of the greatest movies of all time. But I cannot stand modern superhero movies where they make everything be saved by the sliver of a half of a nanometer of a hair every time. And it's not exciting. They think that by making it the smallest margin possible, they've made it as exciting as possible, and they haven't. The only way to make it as exciting as possible is to forget about all this CG crap and have stuntmen do the stunts, and then it will look exciting, because then you'll get a feeling in your chest that this is reality that you are appraising in front of your eyes, and you will feel it viscerally because you'll know it's real, somehow deep inside you. Or watching a load of computer-generated crap, I don't care how slim the margin is, I am left cold as a dead fish that has been taken out of the freezer, having been stored in there for 2 years too long. So I don't like it when I get into this superhero, what I call superhero movie territory, which is what we got into at that point. But more so in the elevator scene. You've got the elevator scene. And again, what happens is they kill the aliens, the acid drips down to the bottom of the elevator shaft, it makes a hole come in the hull, everyone is sucked down towards the hole, including the elevator itself, and the aliens, and of course the elevator, as it comes down the shaft, it brings all the aliens with it that were climbing up the shaft to get to our good guys, it squishes them all down towards the hole, and then the elevator, rather conveniently, blocks the hole at the bottom without smashing its way out, without being sucked out itself, and completely perfectly seals the hole. But in addition to that, our heroes are sort of hanging on ladders that are slightly to the side of the elevator and in these little kind of nooks, so that they don't get squashed down by the elevator as well. And of course there are no aliens on that ladder, because all the aliens are taken, all the humans are saved. Well, the human and the droid are both saved. That kind of bullshit is really lazy filmmaking. It is lazy set piece. It's using it's trying to use spatial mousetrap game type of bullshit to make it exciting, rather than using drama, events, emotions, timing, script, dual loyalties, all those other things, human flaws, human whatever the opposite of flaws is, human virtues, droid flaws, droid virtues, all of those things should have been used to make those scenes be that they only escaped on time. Those are the obstacles, not some stupid elevator shaft obstacle. The dramatic obstacles should have been used. And so that's why I lose interest at that point and started to get really pissed off about the lazy writing, because there was no writing from that point on. When we come to the final, because there isn't really much more to talk about, because the plot really is a rehash of Alien, the very first film. The whole film is a rehash of Alien, sort of just doing a more up-to-date version of that kind of story with that kind of structure. Now, in that way, I liked it, because you had that familiarity, and it's like, oh, we're going to do you Alien, we're going to do you an updated version of Alien. So you're going to get all your ingredients. Don't worry, they'll all be there by the end of it. Don't worry, you'll get the xenomorph. Don't worry, you'll get the chest bursting. Yeah, it's all in there. Don't worry, all the ingredients will be there. Now, I did feel that. I felt that from day one, because it does open with a shot of a spacecraft, and of course that's how Alien opens. And they even used Jerry Goldsmith's music in that opening, which I thought was really nice. But those were all signals to tell us, and they even used Ridley Scott's Alien lettering. So, okay, all of that, great. Telling me, yes, we're going to get Alien again. That's good. So, yeah, don't expect anything too different. Expect Alien again. But made, maybe as, not as Ridley Scott might have made it nowadays, but as some other filmmaker using nowadays' filmmaking would make it. And I certainly didn't expect it to be as Ridley Scott would make it now, because obviously he's still alive and can remake it now if he wants to. And he's obviously going to allow other directors to do other styles of filmmaking, and nobody can make a film like Ridley Scott anyway, because he's a master of shot composition. He is a master of shot composition. He is a master of storyboard planning, and his movies are practically identical to his storyboards. Didn't expect that. And I did expect, so we got all of that. We got all the banter. We got all the, what's your share? Oh, I'm going to spend it on this. When we get out of here, and then there's the evil company and all the rest of it. Hence, partly why everything is familiar and everything's a little bit not a little bit too predictable, perhaps. But then the final scene really. So all of that is caveats to not caveats. Extenuating circumstances to some of my criticisms, but it was that final scene with that freaking umbilical where she's hanging on by this umbilical. They did the whole girl in her underwear with an alien on the ship thing, and I thought, okay, now we really are remaking Alien. We really are. We've now got Sigourney Weaver in her underwear with the alien. I didn't think that she was anywhere near as attractive as Sigourney Weaver. I'm sorry, but I'm going to say it. She did not have the sexiness that Sigourney Weaver had when she was all in her underwear. And I think that somehow diluted the well, it did. It totally diluted the kind of sexual tension that exists between her and the alien. It's a kind of sexual, violent, very frightening tension that exists between Sigourney Weaver and the alien at the end, where she has to undress. It makes it much, much more scary that she's naked, and it makes it much, much more scary because she's not just undressed, but she's undressed and very, very physically attractive with it. This girl was not as physically attractive. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. And for me, it totally took away that. But it also took it away anyway because Sigourney Weaver's done that. That's been done. I also don't think she was anywhere near as good an actress as Sigourney Weaver. Nowhere near as intense at the end there as the Sigourney Weaver scene with the alien. I'd love to see the two scenes side by side to see if I'm perhaps I'm overblowing. I doubt it. It's Ridley Scott. But again, it took away the tension a little bit to know that, okay, so we've got the end of Alien now. She's going to blow the alien out of the airlock somehow. And then we had this very, very overstated umbilical cord catching on the lever kind of setup. I mean, it was just telegraphed far too obviously, and also it was far too fiddly. It was too fiddly. I'll tell you a really good example of an ending where the protagonist is trapped by a bad guy and escapes. And that is in GoldenEye, where you've got the geek, I can't remember his name, and he's clicking the pen, and I think it was if you click it 3 times, it sets a 5-second explosion, 5-second timer for the pen to explode. But if you click it again, it resets the timer and switches it off. And this geek, he's fiddling with the pen like this, going click click click, and then going, and then click click click, and every time he does it, he doesn't even know it's a detonating explosive pen. And Pierce Brosnan is there being held by the bad guy with his hands behind his back, watching this pen as I wish I could remember his name. Russian guy. Anyway, the Russian guy is going click, 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 click. and Natalia, or whatever her name is, the woman, she's kind of watching Pierce Brosnan, and she's gradually picking up on something going on with this pen, and Pierce Brosnan is watching it. Shit, something's about to go down here, and she starts to click like us. And that's also sending a signal to us, a delicate signal if we've missed it. I mean, it's just a most beautifully done scene. And then, of course, finally he goes click, 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 and he doesn't click it again. And then he shouts and he screams and he's shaking the pen like this. And then Pierce Brosnan kicks the pen out of his hand. It flies across the room and explodes. And they all escape. And there's a big showdown. Now, that's one of the greatest scenes in cinema history for that type of escape. It's got to be one of the greatest. So it's so perfectly done and perfectly set up earlier on with our knowledge about how this pen works and all the rest of it. It's gloriously crafted, that whole scene, dramatically. They should have done something like that at the end of the Alien film, the Romulus. Should have done. Okay, some final notes. I noticed sitting through the title credits that the whole film was made mostly by Hungarians, and I believe a lot of it was made in Hungary. Don't know why that is. Was that economic? Don't know. Just an interesting point. Saw the Hungarian names coming down at the end. And as I say, it did indeed use the Jerry Goldsmith music at the beginning. It also used a little bit of Wagner at another point, and it used some rather wibbly-wobbly choirs at the beginning, a little bit reminiscent of 2001: A Space Odyssey. Some of that music was a little bit too obvious. You know, the choir. There's the one bit at the beginning where the choir sort of... and it's just... Oh, God. No, it didn't scare me. I was waiting for that. I didn't think that the characters, the stories, the backstories of the characters were done properly. I couldn't really tell you anything about the characters now, and it's only the next day. I couldn't really tell you anything about them. All I could tell you is that there was a girl who was one of the main characters, and she was stuck in this mining planet somewhere. I'm not even sure where it was. It had like rings around it, like Saturn, because that's the key to the story. That was kind of cool, the rings idea. And they were actually quite well done, the rings. I've got to say, the CG on the rings was really cool. You know, there were some of them icy and yeah, no, really good, really, really well done. Yeah, and then she's you know, she's done her time, she's served her time, and it's time to go back to her home planet or wherever the hell she's trying to get to. And of course, and then the administrator behind the desk, no, your contract has actually been altered now, thanks to the new guidelines. And she just types something and it goes, and it changes from 15 years to 30 years or something. I didn't like that because the person in the wouldn't be able to do that in real life. I didn't like that at all. I think it would have been better if she'd had like a piece of paper, a printout with a QR code on it or something, saying, here's my QR code, here's my code, that's my release code. And then the woman would take it into the scanner and scan it and say, oh yeah, but there's the terms and conditions at the bottom of that. You didn't see the terms and conditions. What terms and conditions? Oh, well, here they are. Let me just see. Now, there's a clause here that says we can alter these terms and conditions at any time. Let me just go back and check. Oh, yeah, they were altered 1 week ago. And the new contract says that we can actually amend or extend due to certain situations. You know, they should have come up with something a little bit more plausible than just that she typed something and added 15 years. That was bullshit. That was rubbish. Because she's just a clerk. That woman behind the counter, she's just a counter clerk. She's not the one making those rules. So that was stupid. Sorry, that was stupid. The other thing is, like, where did they all get this big spaceship from in the first place? I mean, the big ship that they went up there with. I mean, that would cost millions. If they're trying to escape from there and they've already got enough money to buy a huge spaceship, well, why do they need to escape from there anyway if they've all got an enormous spaceship? That was stupid as well. They should have had to have stolen the ship or something. If they're that hard up and desperate that they're working in a mine, they're not going to own an enormous spaceship. And the other thing is that, someone would have asked where they were. Like, they can't all have had the day off work to go and do that. So all of that, there was none of that. This company that was so strict that it was changing their hours as we looked at the screen, apparently didn't really mind that they went missing for 12 hours. And apparently there was also no net around the planet when spaceships take off. There was no ground control, there was no mission control, there was no flight control, there was no air traffic control, there's no boundaries, there were no beacons they had to pass. All of that was just balderdash to me, ruined the authenticity of the whole setup. And so the setup to me was like, it was just like they were trying to go through the motions to get them out there into space and get them doing this. Well, then why not forget about the mine idea and have them like the original Alien? They're on the ship and the pods wake them up at the beginning. Would have been better. I know it's been done already in Alien, and I think in some of the subsequent Alien films it's been done again, the waking up of the pods at the beginning. But do it again. That's what we wanted. I loved the spaceship waking up at the beginning, incidentally, sequence. All the lights and all the music of that. When I say music, I mean the sound effects and all the different coloured lights and everything as that spaceship gradually woke up at the beginning. That was one of the most beautiful scenes of the whole film as well. One of the spaceships waking up at the beginning. I can't remember what spaceship or in what context. And that's telling as well that I can't remember. I ought to be able to remember. But the plot was just so badly set up. Just going through the motions, as I say, to give you an Alien film, or to give you the elements of an Alien film, the ingredients of the Alien film. It's almost like it was like flashcards. We're going to give you all the ingredients of an Alien film. We don't really care how or why we give them to you. We're not really bothered how the plot hangs them all together. That's just a washing line to peg them all onto. So it doesn't really matter what the washing line is made of. It could be made of string, could be made of hemp, could be made of my grandfather, some twine I found in my grandfather's old fishing box. I don't really care what the string's made of, as long as you peg on the correct ingredients and you can pull them off one by one and look at them. And that's exactly how this film felt to me. That's my review of the Alien Romulus. Sorry if it was too long. Hope you enjoyed it. If you agree with me, tell me why. If you disagree with me, tell me why. And I'm not going to be doing film reviews massively on this channel, or at least that's not the plan. Stranger things have happened. Should we stop at exactly 33 minutes? I think we shall, but I think I like the idea of stopping the video at exactly 33 minutes. So until next time, on my next video, God knows what it'll be, I wish you good viewing.